Hey, what's up, and welcome back to the DrEnderPickles show. Today I have the Judge Holden himself on. Judge Holden, you introduce yourself.
Hey,
So I want to hop right into the questions. How and when did you find 2B2T?
I think I started in March of 2011.
All right,
Yeah,
and where did you find the server?
at the time I was part of this like alternative 4chan site called 4chan Plus. And on their video game board, they had a thread of like just post your Minecraft server or whatever. And there was one that had like this sort of screenshot of inside this like griefed base or cave or something like that. It's just this like sign with like an post-apocalyptic, just had like a very post-apocalyptic vibe to it. That was something I was looking for at the time, so I checked it out, and that's how it started.
And who were some of the people that you met when you first joined?
For a long time, I was pretty much by myself, I think, for the first 3 months or so. And after that, I convinced Oftopia to join. And for about a month, I would say, it was still just the two of us. And after that, I think the first people I met were the Lockdruff and JDW.
And maybe who were some people that went up against you? Some people that you had a hard time with on the server.
I think probably Pop Out the most. It's definitely like the biggest problem we had, just griefing our bases. I think he was the only guy who managed to kill me out of like anybody on the server. And then I would say after that would probably be X0 XP for a little bit of time. And what's his name? The pony guy? Drew.
Gotcha. It's a nice list of Spurs right there. But you mentioned bases. You've been at quite a few notable ones, and you actually your group was one of the first groups to kind of pioneer group bases in general. So what was that landscape like back then? Being some of the first people to start that up.
Yeah, I think just like back then, the server was just a lot more casual. Like people just came on, explored, got off. Like nobody, it wasn't like these days where like you got to get clout or trying to sell stuff. It was just like, oh, this is 2B2T, okay. And they get off or they just explore and grief a little or build something and just forget about it. And maybe like, yeah, there wasn't any groups. I think maybe just like Face Punch was like the only notable one. And sometimes you have a big group from B that would come on and try to like build something big. But yeah, like after a day, they would all like disband. But
What
yeah,
were
there's like, since I knew like Octopia for a long time,
Yeah.
I knew I could trust him. So it was just easy to start that.
What was Offtopia like back in the day when you knew him? When he first joined the server.
Uh, well, he's always been like a hard-headed, very generous guy. I guess that describes him well.
And back to bases. You said you know group bases. They weren't really common back then. You had groups coming and going, but you guys created quite a few. So what were some of the bases? What were some highlights of the bases that you guys made that you remember most?
As like the original sort of group we had going, or just through my whole
Yeah,
time on 2B.
that can be through your whole time.
For the original, I'd say like Old Town. It's where we sort of all started. Where did it go after that? Just looking through my screenshots. And then we had like this tiny base before 1 million. That was basically just me, a Lockdrop, and JDW. Pretty cool. And I think it's still standing to this day, like minor griefing. Then yeah, 1 million, some of us were still together. And then after that, there's a bunch of mini bases that led up to the first Rapture base, which was like, yeah, it was still me, Lockdrop, think JDW was there. I'm pretty sure. Willie Roof, Rick and Min, who I sort of consider part of that group.
And yeah,
And then I think it's oh,
you
sorry.
you mentioned one mill base. You guys
Yeah.
were you guys the first people out there, or was it were you guys pioneering that landscape?
It's possible somebody went to the millions before us. I'm pretty sure we had like the first group base that was out there. And yeah, I think Omelix and JDW were the first ones to get there because they were the ones primarily digging the tunnel.
But yeah, that must have been really interesting being out that far. That way back then. Being the first people to get to 1 million. I mean, you think about it now, getting out to 30 million was a huge achievement for people now. But distance changed over time.
Yeah, exactly. It was like one of those things I didn't think it was possible. Like, it was just ridiculous. Especially at the time, having a base around like 10K was considered pretty safe. So going out to a
Yeah,
million was
and I
just,
mean now you see bases so far out, it's ridiculous.
yeah, just up to the
So
border, which is
it's the
something I
meta.
thought
The
would
meta has
never be
changed so
possible.
much.
Yeah.
So now that we've talked, about a few of the bases you've been at, people you've been with, obviously you're most well known for the 2B2C comic that you made, and I would like to know, how you started the comic, what inspired you to start it, and what were some of your inspirations for the plot.
Uh, like back then, I was trying to like find something to help motivate me to draw more. Because usually, what would happen was I'd draw like a little bit of a comic and then sort of give up after a couple pages, just lose interest. This was something where it'd be easy to write because I'm pretty much just taking what would happen to me and just basically just drawing it out in comic form. And my two choices at the time was either to do a comic based on Minecraft or I was going to do one on DayZ. And thankfully, Minecraft was probably the smarter choice. Yeah, that's
Yes,
how it
absolutely.
started.
Yeah, it's looking back at your artwork on the comic, it has a very distinct style that I think fits TV very well. It's pretty timeless. How did you
Thank you.
develop that sort of I don't want to say like gritty, but like just very internet
Just
style, I guess.
sketchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm just like a fan of like that type of style. So it just comes naturally, I guess.
So when you started the comic, what was some of the initial response from the community?
I remember at the time I wanted to be like very quiet about it. Like at first, nobody knew who started the comic, just because I didn't want people like trying to hunt me down on the server just for like for me to write about them later on, for the attention and all that. So I tried to keep it as much of a secret as possible. And I really don't remember when people found out it was me. It was maybe about at 1 million. But yeah, everybody's been like pretty positive about it. So I never had anybody trying to like hunt me down for attention or anything like that. So
Yeah, and I think that's really good too because the story, yours in particular, worked really well in a comic form, and I think it's really interesting just in general. That there's a comic about a Minecraft server. I mean, that's crazy. What Minecraft servers have that?
yeah,
And
I really
especially
wonder what.
especially to have it back then when the server was
Yeah,
not nearly as popular as it is now. It's very nice. But so, well, did you have some sort of maybe like drawing background before you started the comic? Had you done any prior work?
I'm pretty much self-taught. I never went to school for it just because like I was too poor for it. And like I think at the time I started the comic, I was living in this like middle of nowhere town, so there wasn't any schools close by. So I basically just downloaded like art books and just sort of studied from that and yeah, just grinded it out.
Yeah, and could you maybe explain maybe the plot of the comic for people who aren't too familiar with it? And I know when I was reading it as well, you kind of have to have context of who you are and what these bases are to really deeply appreciate it. But it in itself is such a good storyline to follow. Could you maybe explain, some of what's going on in the comic throughout?
Oh yeah, it's mostly about my adventure on the server from when I started, just trying to escape spawn, to when I meet off Topia and some of the original Old Town guys, to when we branch out, just going, starting a new base, getting griefed from Pop Up, starting a new base, getting griefed, starting a new base. It's pretty much, I think, most people's story on the server. Eventually, I think like, yeah, once we get to 1 million and the whole, I think that's when like you have more of just like some of the personalities on the server that more come into the story of like people like Chris Layton or XOXP, and it starts just like gets grander in scope at that point, just because I start interacting with more of the people on the server. And yeah, I think that's most of like how the original comic goes. And then when I started sort of remaking the comic, I was very much aware about how much you needed to know the context to follow the story, because I was keeping it very like anonymous just so people couldn't trace who I was. Whereas when I started remaking it, I gave everybody names. I wasn't like keeping everybody a mystery, and I wasn't afraid to like expand on things and just try to clean it up.
Yeah, and the original run of the comic ended around November of 2012. What was your reasoning for kind of taking a break from working on the comic for a while?
I think at the time it was just because I moved. I didn't have my computer at the time. I was just busy with work, and eventually I just started like a side comic, I think that was called like Odyssey, which was more like how Marksman joined our group, which was another sort of member of Old Town, which I thought was sort of it'd be like a funny side story. And yeah, I think after that, I think I was traveling the world for a little bit, and I wanted to get back to it, but I thought it was just too much of like a, yeah, just with like how nothing has any context too much. It was just like hard to follow. So I thought I'd just start fresh since I was better as an artist at that point, and I could like set things up. I guess that would like, where it escapes me. But yeah, just to have the story flow a bit better and just have it more readable. And I took a break on that just because of work and just my living situation right now. There's no room to
Yeah,
have like pages set out to dry. So but I plan on finishing it one day.
yeah, and I think the reworks you were doing are very nice. Um, yeah, I've looked at some of the reboot stuff you've done for some of the pages, and it really does help it flow a lot better. But
Thanks.
the original art, I mean, it's always going to be timeless to me. I don't know. It's always going to
Yeah,
be
just there's
timeless.
something about it.
Yeah, there's something about it that just it screams to be 2T in every way.
Mhm.
So next question I have for you is, more about the comic. Is it, is it going to continue in any form? Is it still continuing? How is it going to continue? I know you set up a Patreon at one point where you kept working on it.
But yeah, I still plan on continuing it. I don't know when. Probably after I move, because I plan on like having my own office and drawing space for everything. And yeah, it just depends on like my working situation if I have time for it. Usually when I spend a full day, I can finish like 1 page a day. But when I'm working and training, it's just like it just becomes like demotivating to like only have like an hour to do like a tenth of a page or so. And so yeah, but I do plan on finishing it. I just don't know when.
So I've watched a few of your videos on YouTube, and you've done a few self portraits of, well, not self portraits, but portraits of different 2B2T players. And I was wondering if you were going to continue that trend or if it was just kind of a one off thing, because I thought they looked pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I think at the time I just like couldn't play my like 2B2T anymore, Minecraft anymore in general. So I just took a break from that and completely forgot about it until you mentioned it. Yeah, maybe I'll continue it.
But yeah, I think drawing different characters from 2B's past in your art style. It's amazing, honestly. Even if it's not the comic, it's just your art in general. It's very nice to look at. Very pleasing to the eyes.
Thank you.
But kind of rounding out the conversation about the comic. What's your advice for future 2B2T artists that might want to make art similar to that or comics similar to that?
Uh, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I guess just like focus on yourself and don't care about what others think about it, if it's good or bad. Just focus on the art part. Yeah, just try to make something good.
Yes, I agree. Very, very, very sage wisdom. But so I'd like to know, do you still play 2B2T any or any kind of server?
Yeah, I still play. I played 2B2T this morning. Funny enough, I don't play as much as I used to, just because the queue is it's just so annoying.
It's crazy, man.
But yeah, I'm just at a small base with some friends and just building little weird things.
Nice, nice. So that's the only thing you're really working on the server right now, just base building at the moment.
Yeah, pretty much. I have no desire to explore, or I have chat turned off now. It's just like, which I thought I'd never do. But yeah, I'm almost like just playing Minecraft single player at this point. That's what it feels like.
That's crazy to me that the server has become that, and
Yeah,
it sucks too because, I mean, yeah, there's plenty of other anarchy servers out there, but they're never going to encapsulate the amount of player history and
yeah,
just
the
the
history
feel
and
that
culture.
2B2T has. They're all going to feel fake
Hmm.
because I don't know, unless it has the history backing it up, it's not worth it, in my
Yeah, too many of
opinion.
them just try to imitate 2B too much, instead of trying to be its own thing.
And like you said, the chat, it was a really big part of 2B's meta. Knowing people
Yeah,
in chat, you know what they'd say. They have, what certain people would say. It just had
just
that
people
feeling
sharing
that
their
came with the
life
server.
stories.
Yeah, like I mean, they had like shit posts and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, now you look in chat and it's just full of spam bots.
Advertisements and
But I
death
mean,
messages.
it's playing devil's advocate. Server's always going to change one way or
Yeah,
another. It's like a
yeah,
living, sentient, growing experience, and it's we're never going to know what it's like, uh, to truly experience it for the first time now.
yeah, exactly.
But with all that said, uh, do you have maybe any advice for future players that are coming to 2B, trying to form their own experiences?
Uh, do it for the fun and not for the clout. And that's my biggest advice. I see a lot of players are just so wrapped up in drama and like how they come off to others. And I don't know if that's just like a generational thing. Yeah, just focus on having fun. It's just a game.
Exactly. If you have any ending remarks, I think we've covered all the bases. If you have any
Nothing
last
that comes to
words,
mind.
all right then. Well, it's been really nice having you on. Glad I got to talk to you about
Thanks
all
for
of
having
this.
me.